the order of our pack, which makes it slightly easier. Yes, Amanda?
Unfortunately, the other persons haven't yet arrived who would be needed for that application.
Okay, well, okay, should we start with the other one then? Everyone happy with that?
We're doing Chicken Cottage.
Chicken Cottage first, item 6.
Yes.
So, essentially, the order of business, election of chair. Any apologies for absence at all?
Councillor Conway.
Yeah.
Councillor Conway, if that could be noted, that would be great. Any declarations of interest? I have none.
No.
Okay, so now we'll just move on to the hearing procedure. Just bear with me. So we've appointed the chair, that's step 1. Step 2 is the licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, the applicant will present their case in support of their application. Step 4, responsible authorities will come in and make comments for them. Other persons, if there are any. Step 6 is a discussion. Step 7, closing remarks. Step 8, final clarification. And then step 9, consideration, where the people who are involved basically leave and leave the members behind to make the decision. So to start with, everyone clear about that? Just making sure that's okay. Everyone understands the hearing procedure, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if we could just move to step 2 initially, the licensing officer will outline the report. So over to you, Channing. Thank you.
Suba, that's going to outline the report, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, Suba, sorry.
Licensing service are a receipt of an application for variation of premises license under Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003 for Chicken Cottage 125 City Road to extend the late night refreshment hours. Representation remains from the police and licensing. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Pardon me, Suba, I got that mixed up. Apologies for that.
No problem, Chair.
Yes, Amanda?
Sorry, I just wanted to ask if Jessica could contact the other persons, just send them an email just so that they know that we'll be having that next item in the meeting if they want to join. So at least we've given them an opportunity to join.
Of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I just forgot as well. I think we should go around and just introduce ourselves. I'm Councillor Smith of Stoke Newington Ward. Councillor Patrick, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Councillor Sharon Patrick, Kings Park Ward.
And Suba?
I'm Subhash Sriramana, Principal Licensing Officer.
Thank you. Amanda?
Amanda North from Legal Services, assisting members. Thank you.
Thank you. Mario is our IT officer, so thank you, Mario, for all your hard work. Channing?
I'm Channing Riviere, Principal Licensing Officer.
And Jessica?
I'm Jessica Feeney, the Government Services Officer.
Thank you. And Mr. Hunwick?
He's on mute at the moment.
Yeah, you're on mute, Mr. Hunwick.
Yes, guys, my buttons keep on slipping off. Yeah, PC Hunwick, police licensing.
Okay, and I have someone called Dee on there. If you could just introduce yourself, just so we know who you are.
Oh, hi. I'm a neighbour for the proposal for Broadway Market.
Okay, great, thank you. And Euro Safety, is it Mr. Azir?
Yes, it's the
Yeah, could you just, are you here for this one or the other one?
the second one.
Second one, great, thank you. Okay, great. And Dora?
Yes, hi. Also a neighbour of the Broadway Market proposal.
Okay, great, thank you for that. Brilliant. Okay, so let's move on then to step 3. So if the applicant could present their case in support of their application, please. Hello?
Is the applicant here? I didn't hear the applicant introduce themselves.
We have for the second item should go first.
I can't hear them.
Yeah, I can't hear them. There is somebody on my screen.
Dee Sandersley.
Clearer, we can't hear you. We'll give her a minute to sort himself.
We had the second item in the agenda. Are we going first?
No, we're doing the Chicken Cottage first.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're doing
the
item 7
Chicken Cottage.
first.
Thank you.
or item 6, I think it is. So I've got somebody on my screen with no picture.
Yeah,
There was a gentleman there who's disappeared.
He had accepted the meeting. I thought he was on the call. I'm going to drop him another email now.
So he's not actually here.
I think he was
He
here.
was
He
here when
was
we
because he has
introduced
accepted the
themselves.
call as well. But I don't know where he's gone. I'll just send another email now.
Okay.
So if you can just bear with us, folks, that'd be great. Thank you.
Maybe they're going to rejoin. I think they may have had technical difficulties.
Possibly.
Super, did they confirm with you that they were attending at all? No.
Ah, he's back. He's back.
Maybe it.
You're on mute.
Sorry, Chair. I just spoke with the licensee. He's going to join now. He has not joined yet.
Oh. So the chap with the white T-shirt, could you introduce yourself, please? You're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. You're on mute if you can hear me. Yep, I can't hear you still. You're still on mute, the man with the white T-shirt.
I think the applicant Ahmed has just joined.
Yeah.
Right, for the chicken cottage, yes?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, that's great. So,
Mr. Zia, could you unmute your microphone, please, so that we can hear you? You look at the bottom of your screen, there'll be a little mic on the left. You just click on that, it should unmute.
Yeah, just bear with us, folks. We're just trying to get an introduction. No, the man with the white T-shirt, can you nod your head, please? So I know I'm talking to you. Yeah, brilliant, excellent. You can hear me, but I cannot hear you. So you need to unmute your mic, please, if you know how to do that.
There we are.
It's okay. Hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ahmed. Just wait a second, thanks.
Okay, thank
Yeah, I still can't hear you, man with white T-shirt.
Wait, I can't hear it. You can hear me?
I can hear you, Ahmed, yes.
I
Okay.
think the man for the white T-shirt's here for the second application.
Yeah, Mr.
Is
Ahmed.
he? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Ahmed.
Can we just confirm that? Can you nod your head that you're here for the second application?
Broadway
Yeah.
Market.
Broadway Market, the man with the white T-shirt, yes? Nod your head, yes, if you're here for Broadway Market. He may be having technical difficulties. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Ahmed, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Ahmad Zia. I'm the license holder for Chicken Cottage 125 City Road.
Okay. Ahmed, would you like me to run through the hearing procedure again? Because you missed part of the meeting.
Yes. Yes.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Just bear with me until I find it here. One second. Okay, so we've appointed a chair, and that is me. So if you'd like to just speak through the chair anytime, that's great. Step 2, the licensing officer will outline the report, which they've done. You missed that bit, but it's fairly straightforward. You know what it's about. Step 3, the applicant will present their case. That's you. Don't start just yet until I ask you to start. Step 4, any responsible authorities like the police or licensing department will outline their views on this. Other persons will come in after that. Step 6, we will have a discussion, just questions and answers. Step 7 will be closing remarks. Step 8, any final clarifications. And then step 9, you will be asked to leave along with your representatives for members to make their decision. Consider the decision, and you will probably hear tomorrow and a written one within 5 working days. Is that correct, Suba?
That's fine. That's correct. Thank you.
So, okay. So if we just move to step 3 now, that's you, Ahmed, the applicant. Can you just present your case, please?
Yes, because I applied for the extend my license time during the night because of COVID-19, and secondly, because my business has been dropped 50%, so I second point, my rent is too high, nearly 90,000 pay rent annual. So I can't afford to pay the rent. I can't afford to pay the wages. So that's why I have a plan to spend my time. So that's why I applied for that. Then still waiting for what's going on now.
Okay, and you currently operate, is it till midnight, is that right?
Yeah, at the moment, until midnight, applied only in the weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday until 5 o'clock in the morning. And the rest of the nights from Sunday to Wednesday and until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but your current license is until midnight, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great. For every day?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Fantastic. Would you like to say anything else? Because you do have 5 minutes.
Because I have to extend my time, so that's why I applied. I'm requesting you guys to, because I can't afford to pay the rent, I can't afford to pay the wages because my rent is too high. Yeah? So, and then second point, the KFC open next door is KFC to me. This is affecting my business 50%. So I can't afford to pay the rent, so I'm struggling to pay the rent. That's why I want to increase my time, so at least to survive the business.
Okay, well that's fairly clear.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's difficult for us to take pecuniary interests into account, I'm afraid. Yeah. But otherwise, we hear what you're saying.
Okay.
So if we could ask the responsible authorities to come in now, and I believe we'll start with Channing in licensing, please.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing Authority has considered the application. In our representation, you'll see that this particular application is within a special policy area, particularly the Shoreditch special policy area. That area has been identified as having issues due to the cumulative impact of late night premises in the Shoreditch area. So looking at the application, there's not really anything substantial that would ease our concerns or really demonstrates that the applicant would not add to the cumulative impact, particularly given the hours that they're seeking. And additionally, I'll just add that in the representation from the police, there's actually been a documented case of non-compliance. So in our view, where they've had a case of non-compliance and the application itself is not very strong in terms of trying to demonstrate how they would not add to the cumulative impact, then our view is that the application should be refused, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Any clarifications, Councillor Patrick, with licensing on that?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, and we can move on to the police now. Mr. Hunwick.
Yes, Chair. I would just reiterate firstly what Channing has said is that the premises is inside the Shoreditch Special Policy Area. As a result of reopening, there's been a substantial peak in violent crime within the Shoreditch area. This is partly fueled by people lingering on the streets. Sometimes this is a result of getting fast food after they've been drinking all night. This obviously the premises has stated that they are struggling to pay the rent as a result of the COVID matters. However, obviously full reopening has occurred, and I don't see why there would be any reason that they wouldn't return to normal pre-COVID trading on the normal hours. To that end, as we did document, we had a call to the police at 2:30 on it was Sunday morning, Saturday night into the Sunday morning, where an assault was taking place within the shop. The shop was clearly still open and was serving these customers, and this was at 2:30 in the morning, some 2.5 hours after they were supposed to close. This leads us to believe that they were probably doing this on a fairly regular basis. And it wasn't until they were caught at 2:30 in the morning that they actually put this application in to extend the hours. That application is until 5 in the morning, as the applicant has said, on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, which obviously with the licensing effect on late night refreshment would effectively give them 24-hour opening for those 3 days alone. Because obviously the late night refreshment only needs licensing until 5 in the morning. So that would be 24-hour opening. So as a result of that, as a result of the increased levels of crime, we are, as police, trying to keep a lid at the moment on Shoreditch and extension of hours, both on temporary event notices and also on any attempts to extend trading hours. And as a result of the increase in crime that's been occurring, and as a result that we have put this submission in, that we do not believe that the applicant is a responsible operator. He's not demonstrated to us that that's the case. He's already exceeded his hours, and we have concerns that obviously this is in the special policy area, and as such we would ask that this be declined.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Patrick. Shall we just move into the discussion phase now? Have you got any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, could I ask the police? You say you recorded an incident in the shop on the sorry, I can't read my own writing. April. Thank you. Have you had any more calls to the shop, or have you checked whether the shop has been open after its trading times at all since then?
Yes, we have. I mean, fast food restaurants don't generally come onto our radar. Normally, the disorder is on the street outside as people are lingering. However, this particular call was to inside, and we did actually receive and download the CCTV from inside the venue. So the time and date stamps and everything matched the time of the call. So there's no question they were open. Now, as a result of them coming on our radar, we have checked them regularly. They were given a warning letter, which is obviously the first stage of engagement following non-compliance. They obviously, as a result of that warning letter, knew that they were being watched. And since then, we haven't caught them going over their hours. But it's like everything. Once you get caught with your hand in a cookie jar, then you're mindful of who's watching.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Patrick?
Can I just go back to that incident? So it was an incident in the shop. Was it customers fighting amongst themselves, or was it customers attacking the staff? And sorry. And if so, what apart from ringing? Who rang you? Was it the shop that rang you? Was it a customer that rang you? And what was the response of Mr. Zier, if he or whoever was in the shop at the time to the incident?
I don't know what their response was, because obviously it was passed to us slow time after the incident. But from what we could see of the CCTV, there was a disturbance in the shop more than anything, and then the staff behind the counter basically ushered the people out, waving brooms, etc., at them. Now, I think the call did come from the shop because obviously they were asking for assistance. And then the officers that attended basically said to us, were we aware they were still open at that time? So that was how the breach came about. And this is exactly the sort of incident that late night drinking and late night opening does encourage.
Amanda.
Through the chair, I don't know if you would like to ask what the capacity is within the premises. Is there seating, or how many customers, etc.?
Yeah, that would be good to clarify. Ahmed, can you tell us how many seats are in there, please? And how many people can you fit in the shop at once?
We have 11 seats inside the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
how many people? One. Sorry, I didn't catch how many seats you said.
11.
11. Thank you.
Yeah.
And apart from the seats, I mean, how many people could you, in a busy evening, how many people would be in there?
Because that night, which has happened.
Wait, how many people can?
Like 10, 12 people.
Sorry, did you say between 10 and 30?
15, 16, like during the rush hour.
15 or 16.
Sorry, could you repeat that again, please? It wasn't clear.
15, 16 people during the rush hour.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Councillor Patrick, if you're finished with your questioning, could I ask a question?
Certainly, Chair.
I just wanted to ask the police, because you mentioned in your report that you would like to see a dispersal policy. Have you had any discussions with the applicant in regards to that?
No, the only from what I can see, because I wasn't actually dealing with the application, I'm covering for PC Ryan, who's on annual leave. When I've looked at our records, the only backwards and forwards that we've had is the applicant has sent an email trying to explain as to why they were open at 2:30 in the morning. There's been no submission of a dispersal policy.
Right. Can I ask you another question about conditions? If there was a security and SIA on the door, would that alleviate any of your concerns at all? If we put a minimum of people going into the shop, for example, and a minimum number of staff in there, would that alleviate some of your fears?
No, our experience with fast food shops, even if they've got one SIA on the door, is it's very difficult for the SIA to keep an eye on the job. I mean, I understand it's a very boring job, but quite often we find in these situations that they take their eye off the ball and they tend to sit inside the shop watching their phone, as opposed to sort of taking a proactive approach to actually dispersing people. Now, the problem we've got is this is right on the Old Street roundabout. And it's got a bit of a footfall between the station and everything else. Now, our concern is, as Channing has said from licensing, is that obviously it's in the special policy area and it's a cumulative effect. And that by just having SIA on one door, the problem is that it is encouraging people to stay generally in the area to get their food and not to disperse. So I don't think that the problem we're talking about which is a wholesale problem in Shoreditch, is going to be solved by one operator having an SIA on the door who's not necessarily going to be doing the job that he should be doing.
Yeah, if they were to restrict numbers inside the shop, for example, that would give them something to do, wouldn't it? Would that help, in your opinion?
Well, again, I mean, the problem is, it's as if anything, they've been caught trading past their hours, and now they've put this application in, and to reward that, even with an extension, but with conditions, is rewarding people doing what they like. Okay. So that would be our attitude to it.
Yeah.
This is not something. I would suggest that this is something, if we're minded to give, not necessarily to give it now, but with a recommendation that perhaps some temporary event notices were submitted and we could have some sort of history created of a responsible opening without the damage done by actually permanently increasing the licensing hours. Because obviously the 12 o'clock was perfectly adequate before lockdown. Now lockdown's over. I wonder why the 12 o'clock is still not perfectly adequate.
Yeah. And before we get into Ahmed, before we get into to giving you a chance to defend what happened on that evening in April, I'd just like to ask the police one final question, just about the general area, because we know there's a few other late night kind of food places, takeaways in the area. Do you see them kind of causing a problem? I think 129 City Road is open till 2:45 or something. Do you see any?
Yes, I mean there is a problem, and there are other operators that are open later. And if you took the view, Chair, that okay, well everybody else has got later, so why shouldn't he have later? That's fine, but the whole problem is that's why we've now got a special policy area, because by hook or by crook, the cumulative effect of all these historic decisions to allow people later and later hours has caused this overall problem in Shoreditch. And now we as the police are now trying to chip back at this. And I mean this is just taking this application, but taking a holistic approach to it all. Other issues need to be resolved, and if that is by taking hours back off of people, that's going to be a regressive step if this particular venue is then allowed extra hours.
Yeah.
So the SPA was supposed to be drawing a line, and I don't think this operator has given any sort of proof that he is going to add anything as per the SPA guidelines.
Brilliant. So Ahmed, over to you. Just Amanda, you want to come in quickly?
Yeah, I was just going to. Sorry, I was just going to say, Chair, I don't know if you want to clarify with the applicant about how many people are usually outside of the premises, and also the applicant needs to clarify how, because they haven't so far said how they will not add to the cumulative impact. So if that assists you, thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that question, but I just wanted to, before we start those two questions, Ahmed, which is I'd like you to just explain what happened in April and how often you were open to, later than 12, essentially.
Yeah. So my brother Rafiullah Salwi, during accident time, he was there on the time. He want to explain everything to you guys. Is okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Chair.
Hi there.
Hi. Basically, that night I was there at a workplace when the incident take place. Basically, what happens is when it comes to the midnight, we stop selling chickens. But what we do after at the midnight, we start cleaning our canopies, the machines, the machineries. We wash everything. It's because it's that area, especially is over. There's a fryer in there. There's a grill in there. There's a display there as well. It's extremely hot. It's 380 degrees, and when it's hot, you can't really work in there to clean it because there's a fryer, especially when you do cleaning above your head. The ceiling of it's a metal. You have to clean it because the other one, the oil will drop on your top of your head. It can burn as well because of the cleaning, and the weather is really really hot. So you have to open the door to get some fresh air. It's only the fan would not really help you, as you if there is a need, you can come around and have a look at how hot it is. There's a three things in there. There's a grill, there is a fryer for the fries and chips, and there is a machines. There's a chicken which is 380 degrees as well. See, it's extremely, you can't really work underneath of that. We keep the door open to get some fresh air. There was a chicken in display. When I saw these three people, they came in, and because I've been working there for a long time, you probably, if the police officer put my name in their system, they would probably see my number, my private mobile number. I've reported so many incidents, and I help the police, and with everything. If I see anything wrong on the street, I phone them. I'll tell them that's what's happening in there. Then those people, I agree with the police. There are so many criminals, and these people around there is a really rough area. But our area, our street, Old Street, is not as bad as Old Street and Shoreditch High Street. We are the corner by the Moorfield Eye Hospital. Ours is not that bad. If you turn left from us to Old Street, there's three kebab shops there. There's so many shops. They're open late. There's an off license like a couple of doors away from us, and they open late as well. And there's a KFC. We do the same business. Why would they have a license till 2:30? Otherwise, it would be really, really difficult for us to survive. If you look at it opposite our shop, the Imperial Building, and it's a big company, Avocado. You probably have heard of them. It's a massive company. They have so many stores in central London, and they literally shut down. They couldn't afford to pay rent. But we are a small business. Of course, we're gonna shut down in a matter of a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to shut down. At the moment, we are about just to pay the rent and the rate. Our rent is £69,000 plus the VAT. We pay £70,000 plus the VAT. On the top of that, we pay £15,000 rate to the council. On the top of that, they pay for the rubbish, electric bills, and all these things that they collect our rubbish, and they cost money, and you have to pay them. It's during the day it's gone quieter because we saw KFC came next door to us. They took almost the businesses from us. And there's it's about our license, late license. I would say it would be fair if the other people would allow to open till midnight. I would say that's fine, fair enough. I will accept that. But if the next door to me doing the same business and they close at 2:30 or 3 in the morning, and the off license is 3-4 days away from us, and they open till the morning, and how can, I'm a chicken shop, I'm not selling alcohol. Everything is mine is behind the counter. And that incident, especially, I want to just make it clear that incident took a place. Those people, when I had a chicken in there, I had burgers in there, everything I had there, but I wouldn't sell it because these people, they came, they were very violently. Our shutter wasn't working as well. I showed the police as well. I fixed that in front of the police. We pull it down. We asked one of our staffs to bring the ladder and to fix that shutter as well, because the shutter wasn't working there as well. And our door, the key's not working as well. Due to the COVID-19, we couldn't get no one to fix our doors, close it with a door. And it's too hot as well anyway. There's no point closing it. You wouldn't be able to work. And I saw the police as well. Look, the shutter don't work as well. When these people walked in their chair, when it comes to situation, you have to be very soft and nice and polite as well. As the police know that. The police saw them when the officer turned up. They saw those guys. And you have to be very soft. Whatever they say, you have to just give them to let them to go away. Even one of them, I gave them a free food. I want them to leave the shop. So that incident take because of that, and the police were there as well, and they turned up, and I saw them CCTV. It wasn't our fault, because we're there, we do our business. We want to just make in a loaf of bread for our kids, to bring it for our kids and feed our kids. You know, we're not there to fight people who to cause a problem.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that. But just to clarify, you need a few hours at the end of each night to clean up, essentially, is what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
But, and you say you're not trading, you stop trading at midnight, and then you need some time to clear up, yeah?
You need a 3 hours to clean up. It's oil, it's a floor, and hygiene wise, you have to clean everything. From A to Z, the machines has to be all clean, because we work with the oil. So if you don't wash them, the machine won't work, and hygienically, it's not healthy as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Hunwick, you'd like to come in?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify, as I've already stated to you, that since we found that they had been open at 2:30 in the morning, we have been keeping an eye every weekend on their opening. And to be fair, as I said before, now they've been caught, they have been shutting at 12. However, when we've been going past there, they haven't still been in there cleaning at 2:30 in the morning. It's all shut up and in darkness. I'd also sort of add, just on the grounds of reality, that if these people, if they've been spent 2.5 hours with all the fryers and everything cooling down and having cleaned for 2.5 hours, that even if the story about how the door had been left open was true, I would wonder how the hell they had any food or the ability to cook anything when everything was cold. Obviously, the food would have been thrown away, the fat would have been cold, but yet you were able to serve them hot food. But yet, on all the subsequent weeks that we checked, you weren't still in there cleaning at 2:30. You weren't in there cleaning at 2. So I would suggest that, yes, whilst there is cleaning up time required, it's not 2.5 hours. And I'd just put it back to, as we've stated before, they were caught, and then they put this application in almost immediately and have been keeping their heads down. And that would be my submission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunwick. Ahmed, just 1 second. I want to bring in Channing from licensing, please.
Chair, I just wanted to point out that on the premises license as it is currently, it specifies opening hours as midnight. So they have to shut at midnight. So the premises being open to the public after midnight is essentially another breach of the premises license.
Yeah. Ahmed, do you want to come back with that?
I don't know if the police officers or the licensing officer have considered my shutter as well, because the shutter wasn't working. Still, if we come to the main, the door which we close, the glass door, the key don't work, because both door, when you shut down, the key don't work in it. We haven't got someone to still come and to fix that problem.
Just before you go any further, how do you lock up normally then if the front door and the shutter are both inoperative?
We put the shutter down. Once we do cleaning, we put the shutter down.
But you just said the shutter doesn't work.
That night, the shutter wasn't working. The officer saw me. When the lady officer was talking to me, there was a male officer. I can't remember their faces now at the moment. They saw me because we brought a ladder from downstairs, from the ground floor, and we came upstairs. We pulled the shutter, and the shutter stopped working. We have to pull literally the shutter down, and we have to do something about it. We don't want these people come back. Else comes back. Even the police officer, there was a police officer inside the shop. While they were talking to me, we were reporting, we were writing, and the people came in or gave me food. Even they argued the police officer in there. And the police officer shook his head and he said, "These people would never understand that." And the guy was still going up and down the shop, and he wanted the food. We said to him, "Sorry, mate, we are closed." And they wouldn't listen. So how can people come into the shop, and if you know, especially these people are causing you problem, so you have to do something to take them out nicely from the shop before they cause you any problem.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Can we just move on to the other two questions? So the question was, how many people do you normally have sort of hanging around outside the shop, would you say, on an average busy evening at the weekend? I mean, do people hang about outside the shop?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, or your partner?
Basically, we can't really count how many people they're hanging around. You see one goes and pass. I don't really understand how many. I see people that's passing by all the time. So it's just
right. So the people don't seem to hang around outside the shop. Yeah, is that right?
Sorry?
People don't seem to hang around outside the shop.
After what time?
Well, just any time.
Yeah, there's still people around there. There's still people around there, like till 2:30, 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah, Amanda.
I suppose the question is, do they have queues? That's what we were wanting to know. If they have
So
queues.
are there queues? Amanda,
No queues, no.
Okay, great. And just talking about the dispersal policy, which the police kind of requested, why haven't you engaged with them on that?
Sorry, what was the question?
On the sort of dispersal policy, of the people in the shop. The police wanted to work with you on a kind of dispersal, how they leave your shop, essentially. How do you work? Why did you not contact the police about that?
When the police, I did contact, because what happens is that our phone, we have a PIN number for the phone when we ring. There's an extra 9 in there. If there is a need of police, we have to dial 4 9s, not 3 9s, because we put a code number 1 9 in there. I personally phoned the police. I don't know if that call gone through. Then I saw the guys, they were violent. We have to ask them to leave the shop, because they punch in my ear. So they punched my ear. When I saw that, I was talking to the police. I was dialing the 99. I wasn't actually talking to the police. I dialed the 99. I was waiting for the.
Ahmed, I don't think you understood the question. The question is, do you know what a dispersal policy is?
No.
It's basically it's how you kind of manage your customers and when they leave the building, so leave your premises. So basically, if you had 15 people in there,
yeah,
we don't want them all kind of going out all at once, kind of thing. I mean, the police have requested. They say in their report they would like to see a dispersal policy. That apparently is required in your current license, condition 5 of your current license. You should have a dispersal policy. In other words, how do you deal with your customers when they're leaving your premises? So the question is, the police wanted to talk to you about that particular issue, and they haven't managed to do that. Can you explain why you haven't communicated with them about that?
It's basically Mr. Ahmad dealing with the paperwork and stuff like that, because I don't deal with him. But then I will ask him how does it. I don't know if they send the police that after the police send you any about that. What was the policy that called?
It's called a dispersal policy. It's in your dispersal. Dispersal, yeah.
Dispersal policy.
And it's in condition 5 of your current license. Condition 5.
Is that they're gonna say they what would you do? They would send you email or letter. What they would do if
Mr. Hunwick, would you like to come in with that one? I mean, how do you communicate with these people?
In the first instance, obviously, this is an existing condition on their existing license that they're completely unaware of. So clearly, they're not competent to run a licensed venue if they don't know what's on their existing license. In answer to your specific question, we sent the same objections document as we sent to the council to the applicant, to which we received an email reply. And all they seemed interested in doing was addressing the matter of being caught open at 2:30. But obviously, by emailing a response to us, that obviously accepts that they received our objections, in which we asked about the dispersal policy. So
okay,
they've had that request.
Yeah, Councillor Patrick, I know that you've been listening a lot. Do you want to come in and?
Listening. I've heard what the police say. I've heard what the police say, and I heard what the applicant says. They're two very different stories. The police, the CCTV shows that they were open, and the applicant saying they weren't open. It's a matter of who to believe. But it is a worry that if the shop was open and trading after hours, as the police have alleged, it is a very busy area. And I understand the shop's frustration that they've got bills and whatever. and other premises are open. But we're trying to discourage premises from being open late, because it does add to people hanging around. And this area is a problem in this area. Unfortunately, they are on the junction of Old Street and City Road. It is a very busy area at night.
Yeah. Ahmed, I'd just like to come in if you're content with that, Councillor Patrick, for the moment. Your questions.
Yeah.
Ahmed, can you help us understand, how you will not be adding to the cumulative impact, in that area? Can you help us understand what you will do to stop adding to the issues there?
Okay. Sorry, can I explain to Ahmad what the question is? Because is that, you mean what would Ahmad would do to?
It's just basically because it's a special policy area. You have to demonstrate to us that you will put measures in place that will mean that you're not adding to the problems that already exist out there. And basically, by you being open later, the police are arguing, it encourages those people who have consumed large amounts of alcohol in Shoreditch to loiter in the street, quote from their report. So the question is, how can you encourage people not to loiter in the street, I suppose, is the question.
Is that okay if I answer that question for you?
Yep.
The chair, what we did after an accident, we knew it is a serious matter because of protections ourselves as well, because we have very young kids. We each of us, we have I've got 3 kids and he's got 3 or 4 kids as well, because we're looking after our kids and they are very young and they need their parents all the time. And basically after that incident, when it took place, we put an alarm as well. We put our alarm. We had the CCTV. We put alarm, very sure alarm system as well. So we pay them basically monthly £50, and it costs around £600-700 to install the extra cameras taking the pictures, and we install the alarm buttons that will help when you press it when there's a situation. It will help. We got panic button in there. This alarm will go on. Once the alarm is very noisy when it goes on, so the person, whoever is in there, they want to cause any problem, anything like that. As soon as they hear the alarm, and they immediately they will leave. They would know there's a police on the way. The police is coming. Alarm went off. So we took a couple of measures in there, which is very important. We put the sign, very sure security signs on the door, on top of the till, around the shops, that this premises is under the CCTV camera and it's connected to the police as well. So we put those cameras and the picturing camera as well. Take a camera, panic buttons. There's about 3-4 panic buttons underneath of each till, and then around the corner we have a communication system with a very sure company. And if there's any matter goes on, as soon as we press the panic button, and the sound, there will be straight away communication that's from very sure company, and then people they will contact the police about it.
Yeah, Amanda, thank you.
Through the chair, Chair, I don't know if you want to ask about how they're monitoring the door area.
Yeah, I was going to say it's things like, how many members of staff minimum do you have on duty at night, for example? Have you considered having an SIA? We have spoken to the police about that. They don't think that's going to help too much, but have you considered things like that? And also, have you considered things like having a maximum number of people inside your premises, like I don't know, 5, for example? Have you considered things like that, and would you consider things like that?
Yeah, definitely. If the police ask us, yes, to add more people in there, yes, we will add some people in there, and we put some extra people there, and we make sure that everything is secure and everyone leaves and they leave peacefully and stuff.
But do you understand, Ahmed, that the police's problem with this is people loitering in the street? Do you understand what that means? It means people hanging around on the street, eating your food, and basically just not dispersing, not leaving the area, just basically hanging around and causing more problems for the police. That's their main issue. So if you limit the numbers in your shop from a certain time, that would help possibly with that issue. Police might disagree with that, but I just want to probe that point.
that we can reduce the amount of people coming in through the door. Yes, we could do that.
Right.
5 or 6 people are allowed to come into the shop, and
You're not very clear.
but mainly, I've seen people when they buy their food, they don't sit down because they call their Uber, and the Uber comes and picks him up, and from there, and because moment because because of the COVID-19, and there's a roundabout is changing because they put the barrier there. Before there was no barrier, people would take their food and sit in the Uber and would go. So because of that maybe as well, because people hang around. There is always people who are hanging around anyway. That's another matter as well. And there's that old street area. There's more shops, chicken shops, kebab shops, off licenses, bars, and those are in those areas. We are more, and I understand the police is a special policy area. I can understand that, yeah, it is. But we are more peaceful than the old street and Shoreditch high street one, because the most club and bars are in that area. As you said, what security would you do? Sometimes if there is a needed, I've got a night jar club which has got security, and we can ask. I've asked them before as well to help me with that. If there is any situation, I can ask the security as well to come and help with the situation. And if the police wants me to put an extra camera on the outside the property, yes, we can do that as well. That's not a problem.
Okay. Can I just ask Mr. Humwick a question about the sort of, when is it, what hours of the evenings, the weekend are the most problematic for you? I mean, is it 5 o'clock? Is it 2 o'clock? Is it consistent from 1 to 6? What is it? There must be a period when it's really hectic.
It really is from 11. I'd say 11 o'clock onwards, midnight. That's really when it picks up, especially at the end of the week. Generally speaking, you get a lot of people. This was pre-COVID, and I'm sure it will return to that. But there's a lot of city people that finish work, and obviously Hackney goes right down to the city. Now they will all migrate into the Shoreditch area after work at 5, 6 o'clock. So by 11, 12 o'clock at night, they've been drinking for a good 5 or 6 hours. So that's about the time it all kicks in, and then it's right through the night until obviously the later hours that some venues have got. So, I mean, by the own admission of the applicant, I mean, a lot of it is around the corner where we've got the later hours, which really speaks for itself. All they're doing by giving later hours is bringing this problem around the corner and onto the bottom of City Road there.
Yeah, and when you say later hours, are those later hours until 2 or 3 or 4 or what?
Well, I mean, it goes on until the last bars kick out, which is like 3 or 4 o'clock. And that's where some venues, some of the fast food venues have got until then. But
okay, so if the applicants were to reduce their desire to open till 5 and say till 2, would you still have similar objections?
Yes, we would, because it's exacerbated the problem for a further 2 hours above and beyond what they're there for now.
Okay, brilliant, excellent. Okay, Councillor Patrick, would you like to come in with any further points?
No, Chair, I think it's quite clear what the police think, unfortunately.
Okay. So look, we've had the discussion period, and I think I've given us a fair amount of time on this, which I think is reasonable. So I would ask to move to step 7 and go into closing remarks, please. So if we could ask maybe licensing to come in with any closing remarks, that would be useful.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo the comments that have already been echoed by the police, the premises is in a special policy area. The licensee, the operators, have basically demonstrated non-compliance, and to extend the hours, we think would not be a good decision in terms of promoting the special policy area and the licensing objectives. From the comments made by the operators, it seems as if they don't fully understand why a special policy area is in place. They're not fully competent in terms of understanding their license. There's also a mention of training in the application, staff training, but to date we haven't received any documentation or tangible evidence that supports that staff training has been put in place. So in our view, it should be refused because, like Mr. Hunwick said, it will only exacerbate the problems in the area.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Mr. Humwick, would you like to come back with your final points, please?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say too much. I think Channing has just summarised it perfectly. It's in a special policy area. The special policy area is created for a reason. Operators have to demonstrate they're not going to add to the problems. And I don't feel that the applicant has done that. Quite the opposite. It's demonstrated that they have no knowledge of licensing and that any increase in hours, by their own admission, there's problems around the corner. And as such, an increase in hours will bring those problems to their door.
Okay, thank you. And then just finally, Ahmed, give you a minute or so just to come back.
Yeah. Yes. What was the question, please?
Yeah, well, you've heard what the police have to say. You've heard what licensing have to say.
Yeah.
I just want you to maybe come back and say and defend your position, if you like. Give you an opportunity to say one last thing, really.
Yeah, because this is only the options. I have only two options. If you not extend our hours, so because I can afford to pay the rents, pay the wages. So because at least if you reduce my time in the weekend from 5 o'clock and make it to 3 o'clock, I'll be agree with that.
Sorry, say that again.
If you reduce my time during the weekend, like Friday, Saturday night, reduce the time from 5 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, that will be okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. Did you say 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
At 2:30 will be fine. Yeah, until 2:30 in the morning will be fine.
Okay, well that's something. We can consider that.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So this is the point where we have any final clarifications. I'm happy, Councillor Patrick.
I'm happy, thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you everybody for joining this subcommittee. So I can ask those of you who are part of this to leave. You will get a decision tomorrow and a written decision within 5 working days.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. Good evening, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so now we move on to the next one. Which is, just let me find it in my document. It's Broadway Market, number 46 to 48 Broadway Market. So if I could ask the licensing officer to outline the report, please. Ahmed, you can leave now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. And so just 1 second, Suba, before we start. Sorry, I keep calling you the man in the white T-shirt because I haven't actually heard from you yet. I don't know. Can you just test your microphone, see if it's working? Can you unmute your microphone?
Sorry, man in the white t-shirt. If you look at the bottom of your screen, just below where everyone's pictures are,
yeah,
you'll see. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
can
got
hear
it.
me now?
Yeah. Can you just introduce yourself for the meeting, please?
Yeah, I'm the owner of the property directly above the premises 4648 Broadway Market.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, and do you mind giving us a name or,
Mr. Satnam Singh.
Mr.
Satnam Singh.
Satnam Singh. Okay, great. Thank you. Great. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Mr. Satnam Singh.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
Mr. Singh C3?
Yes, I think so. Is that correct, Suba? Appendix C3?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Brilliant. Okay, so licensing officer, please, if you could outline the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing service are in receipt of an application for variation of premises license under Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003 for 46 to 48 Broadway Market to include supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises. The applicant has submitted additional information which has been circulated. Environmental Protection have withdrawn their representation based on the additional information, which is the noise report and the dispersal policy. Representation remains from other persons. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And if I could ask the applicant, please, to outline your case. So, Mr. Satnam Singh.
He's not the applicant.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, the applicant. Who's the applicant again? Remind me. Sorry about that.
Mr. Singh is one of the ejectors.
Yeah.
I think it's Mr. Akbar.
Eurosafety International screen is the.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, apologies for that. Easily to get confused with this online stuff.
Hi, my name is Zia Martin. I am Mr. Hassan Aibakar's licensing agent. I will be representing our case. Mr. Hassan Aibakar is also in attendance. First of all, we would like to thank Ms. Sanaria Hussein for her help during the application process. The representations made us reassess our arrangements, and we are confident that the variation would not have an adverse impact. Therefore, we would like to address the concerns and set everyone's mind at rest. We understand that the concerns are for the surrounding residents and for the possible increase in noise and disturbance. Nevertheless, the conditions that we have suggested allow for the control and management of any possible disturbance that may occur. The applicant, Mr. Hassan Aibakar, is a successful business person who has over 15 years of experience in the hospitality and retail sectors. Since 2005, Mr. Aibakar has been successfully operating the premises in question. Moreover, Mr. Aibakar owns a fried chicken takeaway on the same street at 51 Broadway Market and another grocery store on Queensbridge Road. Mr. Aibakar is very conscientious and rigorous with his business approach. To this day, there has not been a single problem caused by Mr. Aibakar's customers, unlike claims and objections. Mr. Aibakar has a good reputation and wants to protect and develop it. Firstly, I would like to explain why Mr. Aibakar applied for on sale. Contrary to objectors' claims, the premises will not be turned into a drinking establishment. Mr. Aibakar wants to open something similar to a tapas bar, providing wine, beer, cocktails with small mezze-style platters. For example, plates of cheese, hot and cold starters, finger food, etc. However, I should underline that the business will not be alcohol-led. They will also be offering non-alcoholic drinks such as coffee and tea. As mentioned in the objections, there is a saturation of off-licenses in the area with over 40 supermarkets in the 1 mile radius. On top of that, the pandemic made it very difficult for Mr. Aibakar to run his business. Turning the supermarket into a cafe seems like the only viable way forward. A similar approach was taken by other businesses in the area. We did not want to change our current off-sale hours, as it will be a gradual transition from the supermarket into a cafe. Also, the applicant wants to have a backup option in these unprecedented times. If the cafe fails, he wants to be able to turn the premises back into a supermarket. We find it quite ridiculous that the objectors are blaming our premises for the ASB issues in the area, where there are 7 off-licenses, 2 public houses, and a cocktail bar. Objectors claim that crimes are on the rise, but the crime register we obtained from police.gov.uk says otherwise. There has been a gradual decrease in crimes over the past year, and Mr. Aibakar wants to contribute to that by having a responsible ethos. We do not think the variation of our license will lead to more issues in the future. Also, all staff will be trained every 6 months regarding alcohol sales. The proposed hours for the on sales are within the core hours stated in the licensing statement of Hackney, published in 2018. And the use of the outside area will be restricted between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. as per Hackney's licensing policy number 6. The number of customers in front of the premises will be limited to 12, and after 10 p.m. a maximum of 4 smokers will be allowed outside. The supply of alcohol on the premises will be ancillary to a food order and will be supplied to seated customers at table by staff. There is already a Challenge 25 policy in operation, and it will go on to ensure that alcohol is not sold to underage customers or intoxicated people. To estimate the noise impact of the proposed activity, we conducted a noise impact assessment, and it has been concluded that potential noise emissions from the proposed activity would not have an adverse impact. I also want to emphasize that the survey was conducted on a Saturday, which is one of the busiest days of the week. Environmental protection withdraw their representation as a result of the report, and we don't have any representation from the responsible authorities. Mr. Ibakar is also planning to soundproof the ceiling as well as install acoustic absorbent paneling under the tables and chairs outside to reduce noise. In these unprecedented times, with deep recession and steep job losses, starting a new business is very difficult. Therefore, we would like to ask that you support us in this endeavor and grant this application. We believe the conditions that we suggest are enough to minimize any adverse impacts, and we are open to discuss further conditions that you may seem fit. If you have any questions, we are ready to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Azia. Councillor Patrick, do you have any points of clarification you'd like to raise at this point?
Yeah. So basically, what we're talking about is operating a supermarket and a bar together until your client feels that the bar is sufficient, and then he's going to shut down the supermarket. Is that what you said?
No, they will
No.
first finish up their stock, then turn into renovate their premises and turn into a.
Sorry, it's difficult to hear you. I'm terribly sorry.
They will be continuing as a supermarket for some time and finish up their stock, and after that they will renovate their premises and provide toilets as seen in the plans and such, and turn the premises into a cafe, and then work as a cafe.
Will they still be operating as? Sorry, Amanda.
Yeah.
Will
Sorry,
they
they're
still
going to be operating as a cafe.
Will they still be operating as an off license when they're no longer a supermarket?
No.
So they're just going to be open then from 9 o'clock, whatever the time was, 9 to 11, whatever. So what are the planned opening times? When it's a cafe, what are the planned opening times?
From actually 8 a.m. to 11:30.
Right. Will they surrender? Are they planning to surrender their license that they've got for the off license?
Currently not, because we want to have a backup plan. If the cafe fails, the applicant wants to would turn the premises back into a supermarket.
Well, what if he surrendered the license? He could then apply for a new license if he wanted to be an off license again. You know, there's nothing. So if he's got both licenses, there's nothing to stop him being an off license after the cafe bit shuts. Then.
But that's not his plan.
Well, we say it's not his plan, but okay. But there's nothing to stop him in law, is there, doing that?
And there could be a condition saying that when, like, the premises is operating as a cafe, it must close at midnight, probably. I don't know. We want to incorporate a 30-minute drinking up time. That's why I'm saying 11:30 or midnight.
So you're set to condition that the premises doesn't operate as an off license when it's operating as a cafe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Amanda.
I just wondered if the licensing officer could clarify, would they need to surrender that license for the off sales or not?
Sorry, Chad, this is a variation. So the premises has got one license only, which is for off sales, and they have varying their existing license to include on sales.
So they don't need to surrender anything?
No, none at all.
So they can we condition it if they've agreed that they don't use the off sale part of their license after whatever time we decide the cafe shuts? Or could we not do that? Is that not possible?
I think it's one license, so therefore they're going to be allowed to use the off sales if they want to. They're adding on sales to their current license, so it will still be one license operating throughout, regardless of whether it's the cafe or the supermarket.
So it's what basically I said. If the applicant wants to remain an off license as well, they can do.
I don't think there'll be an off license. They'll probably be allowed to sell alcohol to take away, won't they, Suba?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
I've just got a point of clarification. I mean, obviously, at the moment, according to your plan, I can see 8 seats at the front next to the sidewalk. Is that correct? Page 39 of this document. Yeah, this is the plan. I don't know if you can see it. I can see eight seats at the front. Yeah.
Actually, there will be 12 seats. It will be restricted to 12 seats.
So my question is, because at the moment we're considering what is in front of us.
Yeah.
No, we're not considering what's going to happen in the future. You know, we're considering what's happening now. 12 seats. So the next question is, when we do project ourselves into the future, how many seats will this cafe have?
12 seats outside, 16 seats inside.
Okay.
Do you have a license? Have you got a lot? Have you applied for a license for the seats outside yet, or will
Not
that
yet.
come afterwards?
Afterwards.
So we're basically talking about 12 seats inside.
Outside and 16 inside.
Oh, right. So it's 16 inside and 12 outside.
Okay.
That's not very many seats, is it? I mean, it's quite a small cafe.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you for that. We have no responsible authorities to come in here, so it's straight to other persons. So I don't know who wants to start first. I mean, maybe Mr. Satnam Singh, if you'd like to come in. You've got 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to give you all 10 minutes between you, so about 3.5 minutes each, roughly. If that's okay.
Okay. Yep, I can start.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you.
So I'd like to start off just by saying that I was in contact with the landlord of the premises today, and he's notified me that his solicitor has sent a letter to the applicant's solicitor stating that they're not going to grant the variation of the lease. So as a tenant, I'm slightly confused of why Hassan Akbar is pursuing this, because the landlord himself, who owns the building, the entire building, including the shop, has his solicitor on the 1st of June sent a email to Hassan Akbar's solicitor stating, I've got it written here, please advise your client if they wish to proceed with the sale of alcohol in the premises, my clients will be taking action for breach of lease. At no stage was consent given for such use. So unfortunately, the landlord wasn't able to attend this meeting, so I'm kind of speaking on his behalf. I spoke to him also today, and he's confirmed the case. Supposedly, the applicant solicitor hasn't replied to that email from the landlord's solicitor, and he sent it on the 1st of June, so it's been a couple of months now. So according to the landlord, who I've known since I owned the property for 16 years, him and his business partner are not going to give consent for the variation of lease, which is what the applicant's wishing to do. So at the moment they are communicating via solicitor, but unfortunately the applicant's solicitor has not been very responsive. So yeah, just to mention that to start with.
You did mention that in your written submission, didn't you?
Yes, I did. At the time when the written submission, he'd only just sent the solicitor, the landlord solicitor only just sent the email, hoping to get a response, but he doesn't have a response yet.
Okay.
So yes, so we kind of have to question what the purpose and the motive of this conversion is, if
okay, so we can
chance.
ask Mr. Azir to address that question in the discussion phase. So Mr. Azir, if you would like to just think about that in the meantime.
Yeah.
Mr. Satnam Singh, if you'd just like to just talk about what we've got in front of us for the moment. You have mentioned this in your submission, so it's there, and we will definitely be taking that into consideration in consultation with our lawyer.
Yeah.
But if you'd just like to speak about the issues that you're worried about if this was to go ahead.
Well, some of the issues, obviously the major issue is my bedrooms, my property bedrooms are directly above the premises in question. And there's already a severe soundproofing issue. I can pretty much hear everything, every whisper, every kind of pin drop, because it's known that when the building was built, it was built with very little soundproofing. That's been confirmed also by the landlord. On that question, in regards to the potential of soundproofing, I've been notified by the landlord that that will be very difficult for the applicant to do because there's very little ceiling height as it exists. The ceiling of the existing property of the shop is already very low. So the cavity between my property and the existing shop is very low. So I'm not too sure how he would get around the soundproofing issue. So that's one of the issues. The other issue is, my concern is the medical centre is next door. It's a shame that we don't have any representation from the medical centre. And I've actually been into the medical centre examination room, and the examination room is right next to the shop. And sometimes there has been complaints from the medical centre, from my own property and the shop, that they can hear pretty much most of the activity that takes place. So that it seems a little bit kind of concerning that obviously with a medical centre next door and they're opening a wine bar, they seem to be calling it a cafe now, but on the document it states a wine bar. That seems a little bit peculiar. So that's another question. Another aspect is it's attracting cumulatively over the 16 years that I have been there, lots of beggars who are hanging around the property outside. And it seems a bit confusing how the representative from Euro Safety International said that there's no reported incidences. I've witnessed, and many other people have witnessed many incidences around there in terms of crime, theft. My own property has been burgled on 1 or 2 occasions, etc. So that's another point. The other point is I believe that already existing, there's antisocial hours in terms of the property already sells alcohol till 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's the only shop on all the Broadway market that does that. And you tend to find you get quite a loitering of beggars and drunks who kind of just gravitate around that one area at 2 o'clock in the morning. Whereas other off-license seem to close at more reasonable, respectful hours at 11:30, 12. It is a predominantly residential area also. So that's one of my points. And just the whole ethos of an accumulative premises opening on Broadway market for longer and longer in terms of hours. You know, there's 17 establishments on a small street that all serve alcohol in some form. Now, I understand that he's serving alcohol anyway, but till 2 o'clock in the morning, that becomes a little bit of a problem in terms of people loitering, etc. And it seems a little bit contradictory to Hackney Council recently having antisocial behaviour week, I believe was last week. And this is all trying to tackle safety for children, elderly. And I noticed that within the plans, they're also introducing seats on the sidewalk. Soon there will be very little sidewalk on Broadway market for people who with young children or prams or elderly people, etc. So there's an increasing amount of seating that has been granted to premises on Broadway market, and obviously the residents know that. So yeah, there's an accumulation basically, but the main issue obviously is the fact that he hasn't been given the consent by the landlord in terms of the conversion, etc. So yeah, so that's kind of.
Well, thank you very much for that submission.
Okay.
We'll come to a discussion phase, so you'll be able to come back in with some of these points later on.
Okay.
Dora, would you like to come in now and take 3 minutes?
Hi there, thank you. I live in a flat pretty much next. It's above the clinic, which is next to the premises in question.
Could you tell us which her objection is, please?
Yeah. What in the appendix? What number is it? Do you know?
It's C1, Chair.
C1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'm in opposition to this license. I'm kind of mostly in agreement with what Mr. Satnam Singh is saying, but specifically, I'm picking up on the issue of when it was mentioned that there had been no incidents which were causes of concern. I think that's untrue, because for the time that I've lived in the property, in the last maybe year, I think there was at least one quite serious stabbing incident that occurred in the shop, and so I don't think that point is true. And secondly, the accountability of the leaseholder is an issue for me, because it seems to me that the application for the license, like the definition of what they're trying to do, has changed, even from the point where they've applied for the license. So I'm wondering what this says about the accountability, and I think that's a cause for concern. If you're applying for one thing and then you're changing your mind and wanting to do something else, and then I just don't know what is there in place that might, protect residents from, lots of other premises doing the same thing. And just to make an additional point that over COVID, the antisocial behaviour on Broadway Market has worsened. I don't know, I haven't looked at the stats myself, but as a resident living on the street and being someone who's been at home a lot in the evenings, and I think that a lot of people would probably agree, but the noise levels and just general antisocial behaviour has kind of escalated, because over lockdown, I guess a lot of people congregated on Broadway Market because there was a park at the end of the road where they could take their drinks to drink, and people ended up just congregating, and that really escalated the cumulative effects that Satnam was actually. So, and I'm just concerned about noise levels, because that has just been getting worse. I think that an additional place serving alcohol into the late hours of the evening is not going to improve that. Also, not in line with ACME's recent antisocial behaviour campaign, which I find contradictory.
Okay, brilliant. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dora, for that. Now I have Dee on here, and I'm not sure if I wrote your name down, Dee.
Hi, it's Debbie.
Debbie, hi, Debbie.
Hi.
Apologies for that.
Not at all.
But yeah, if you'd like to come in and just give us 3 minutes of your time, thank you.
I don't know if I can fit it all in 3 minutes, but look, I mean, for starters, I have to say before I put in my 2 pence, that introduction from Euro Safety International, whoever they are, I found really thoroughly confusing. We all started with noticing a little note on the door, which in fact I didn't notice for a long time. A little notice about the change of license was put on Mr. Akbar's shop very quietly, and very, it was hard to see it was there. In fact, somebody pointed it out to me before I noticed it. And on that little sheet of paper was nothing to do with the bar. So I've been going into that shop. I've lived sort of next door above the doctor's for more than 15 years. And I immediately went in and had a chat with Hassan, who I'm friendly with, and I've been supporting his shop for all these years. Hassan promised me that there was absolutely nothing going on other than he wanted to get approval for an on license, which he explained to me was to give him the ability to open bottles in his shop. And I think you've probably seen my letter. I found that very confusing. But he told me face to face that there was nothing planned, but all the other shops were allowed to open alcohol in their shops and send off their customers with it. To which I said, I find that very odd, because surely there can be no reason for this other than to promote drinking on the street. And we have a huge problem with people drinking on the street. You know, Hackney Council have taken out this injunction to stop drinking in London Fields, right? We all know what problems there were and have been escalating in the past few years. And because there's no drinking in the park now, people have just gathered in London, in Broadway Market to drink. So we've had an influx of drunks and beggars and everything else that comes with that. Our entrance to our house is just around the corner. I now come home very often and I have to throw a bucket of bleach on our front door, as I wrote to you. I don't know if you read my letter.
I have.
I have a daughter. I have a child. Someone else in our building is about to have a baby. I just, you know, I'm having to move drunks off my step to get into my own house. My daughter can't do that. She's not big enough or confident enough, but this happens now on a regular basis. Well, you know, we have very friendly drunks and then we have the more aggressive people. Mr. Hassan saying that he's in full control of those people in his shop. I've been threatened in his shop and he nicely sort of told the guy to leave me alone. But we have a lot of people like that who frequent these shops in the street. You know, I cannot see how Hackney Council can possibly think of giving yet another license on this tiny little road where we have the majority of shops already either already turned into bars or have been given licenses to turn into bars. And we have I think the sushi place opposite is about to double its capacity and allow more drinking in there. The off license has just turned into a bar just a few doors down. I mean, how many bars do you think are you planning to put into Broadway Market? Other than anything else, this whole report on which we were sent, you know, half an hour before this meeting on the noise report, well, he's going to put a little bit of foam under the chairs and the tables from what I read. That's not going to do any good. We already hear every bit of noise, like Mr. Singh already said. We hear everything next door. I mean, I've soundproofed my windows, everything else. But when somebody comes back next door at 2 o'clock in the morning drunk, you can hear them and they put the music on. I hear every word and every song that they play. So we have a real issue with noise. There's no soundproofing between the houses. What else did I have on my list? I mean, this whole application seems muddled, confused. What they're going to start as they're going to sell booze till 2, but they're going to have a bar during the daytime opening. I mean, it also says in the proposal that they will only serve alcohol with a meal. So is there going to be no bar at all? Is this just going to be a restaurant? You're saying tapas bar. I mean, what exactly are we talking about? And again, as you pointed out, Mr. Smith, what they've given you a proposal we haven't even seen with 8 tables outside, but it's going to be 12. But it's this, but it's that. I don't trust Mr. Akbar, quite frankly. We had a chat face to face, and Mr. Akbar, if you're listening, I'm sorry to say this, but I was really disappointed because I would have hoped that with your neighbours, you can just be a bit honest and have a chat. And I never said I was going to get in your way or anything, but having looked at your plans now, I see that we were totally led up a garden path. So that's pretty much me. You know, I'm sorry, I've just had enough of picking tramps and drunk people off my steps. I feel terrible for them, but equally, I pay council tax to you and all of this, and I can't take a bottle of wine into the park with a picnic and drink responsibly because we've had such issues. This idea that crime, that the antisocial behaviour, I mean, you know about the antisocial behaviour. It's ridiculous to suggest that it hasn't escalated. It's been a nightmare and it's getting worse. And I think we've got enough bars, enough drinking establishments in this little road. And quite rightly, as Mr. Singh said, we've got a doctor's surgery next door. I mean, how on earth he could think that this was going to help anyone in the community? I find really strange. This is not for the community. This is to line your pockets, Mr. Akbar, and you already have 3 businesses, and you were not in any way impaired by the lockdown. You stayed open throughout. I don't see how this is, there's no sob story here, as far as I can see. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Debbie, for that. That was very comprehensive.
My pleasure.
Any points of clarification, Councillor Patrick, on this one, just before we move into the discussion phase?
I'd like to see the stats that Euro Safety put up. He waved a piece of paper and said they were the police stats about crime going down, but I don't know. I couldn't read it because it's only put off. So, and I'd be interested to see what stats where crime is going down. Is this for Broadway Market? Is this for Hackney? What are these stats? Where are they for? Because I assure you, as councillors, we're aware of what's going on in Broadway Market and obviously what's happened in London Fields Park. So I'd be interested to see what these stats are. Just curious because you've put them up and you've given us evidence, but I haven't been able to read them.
Yeah, Mr. Azir, do you want to address that question, please?
We've just put in our postcode. It says the crimes in your local area. It's not the street. It's just, I guess, 1 mile radius. I'm not sure. I'm just checking it right now.
What are these and what stats are they? So you're using these as evidence. So
yes.
Could you give me the evidence, please? You said that the stats that says there's a decline in crime in 1 mile area. And these are the police stats? What stat are council stats?
These are
They're not for Broadway Market itself.
Yes, it's for the
I think he said he got them off the
local
internet.
area.
So it's for a general area which we hadn't seen, which was within 1 mile radius. So it's not specifically for Broadway Market.
It says London Fields. It's for the
that's
London
quite
Fields
a big
area.
Yeah, it's quite a big area. Okay.
If you just go to police.uk and type in the postcode, which is E84QJ, it shows the stats.
But what about there's different sorts of crimes. So it may be that burglary might be going down, but antisocial behaviour and drunkenness and say robbery may be going up.
Antisocial behaviour has, I looked at the street, Broadway Market, and the antisocial behaviour crimes are usually take place 4 or 5 times roughly each month, and there hasn't been a substantial increase or anything, but there has been a decrease, and overall there has been a gradual decrease, as you can see here. There was a peak period during the Christmas period.
I can't see them. It would have been really helpful. You've put all your documents in really late. You put in a noise report just before the meeting, another document just before the meeting, and now you're trying to show us information online that nobody can read. I know you don't have to produce it earlier. I don't find it very professional the way you've done this, and it doesn't help us being able to decide your applicant's case when you put these documents in so late. I know licensing have asked you to put them in earlier, and it doesn't help at all the way that you've gone about it, because it makes it difficult to decide fairly when you put documents in so late.
Yes, I do, and apologize for, sending in the documents quite late. But we wanted to conduct the noise assessment report towards near the hearing, so that the residents wouldn't say that the situation is quite different right now. If you look at the conclusion, you understand that the proposed activity wouldn't have a huge impact on the area regarding the noise levels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Debbie, do you want to come in? You've got your hand up.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention there that, this level of crime having gone down, Has that got any correlation, do you think, to do with the fact that they banned drinking in London fields? You know, that's an obvious one to me. Of course, things got a little bit better when that happened.
Yeah.
And as far as the noise reduction report, it quotes things like the calculations are based on a couple talking at moderate level. Yet there's not going to be a couple of people. You're talking about 12 people outside and 16 inside. And we all know that when you're in a group, and especially in a room, and there are lots of people, they're all talking over each other, and they talk louder. And they talk louder when they're drinking. I mean, it's obvious. Then other things like, that they measure the noise reduction. The noise reduction from a partially opened window will drop the noise levels by 10 dBA. Well, that will drop the noise levels potentially inside. It's going to raise them outside. This whole noise report is totally unfathomable to me. If anyone else can make sense of it, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Amanda.
Sorry, Chair. I don't know if you wanted to make any inquiries about what the applicant's done to resolve the objections with the other persons.
You heard the question there, Mr. Azir. What have you consulted the residents? Have you talked to them at all?
No.
Okay, great. Straight answer to a straight question. So now we're kind of in the discussion phase now, folks. We've sort of entered that already, really. In terms, Mr. Satnam Singh, in terms of the noise report, did any of those people come inside your premises to take any readings from your 7-year-old's bedroom at the front, just above the shop?
No, they didn't. I believe from what I could see from the image that the noise report was taking place 2 doors down, at number 50. Also, it's a point to question because it says in the conclusion of the noise report, it's been concluded that potential noise emissions from the proposed activity not have an adverse impact if all noise reduction measures in section 6 are followed, and one of those measures is to put insulation underneath the table and chairs outside on the path. So who's going to sit on soundboarding on a path on chairs? I've never seen that as a feat of engineering from what I can understand. I could understand if it was inside the property, but outside, that just seems a ridiculous solution because no one's going to sit on fiber boards on a chair on a pavement outside. So, and it does say it's if these measures were followed, and that's one of the proposed measures. I've never seen that in any cafe or restaurant in London outside where people sit on noise boards. So there's something obviously, and we only received that report at 4 o'clock this afternoon, so it was a bit of a task trying to go through all of it, but it's clearly just been done very quickly, extremely unprofessionally, and not even at the property itself. And as Debbie pointed out, it was done, very late with a sound modulation of 2 people talking quietly. No one talks quietly once they've had a drink. Everyone's fun and merry. And 12 people being fun and merry directly outside my bedroom will be definitely a lot noisier than what the noise report has kind of stated. So
thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Just to Mr. Azir, we're looking at what we've got in front of us. Can you just talk us through basically I know you've mentioned it already, but just briefly again, just so we're clear about what we're looking at here. I want to know how many seats are going to be available in this application for people to sit at, number one, and how that will work whilst the supermarket is still operating, if you like.
The supermarket and the cafe will not operate at the same time.
That's what you're applying for here, isn't it?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Isn't that what you're applying for here?
No.
Because that's not clear to me.
Just before answering your question, I would like to mention that the objectors say that they couldn't make any sense from the noise assessment report, but the environmental protection who actually requested the report read the document and withdrew their representation. Apparently, it made sense to them. So I don't understand why the objectors, who are not the responsible authority, does not like the document in question, as they are lay people.
So, can I ask the licensing officer here, just because I feel like I'm missing something. As far as I'm concerned, they're not applying for 12 outside, 16 inside seats and just a cafe, right? That's a question. That's a question to the licensing officer, Suba.
I have not got any confirmation regarding the seatings, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Patrick.
Chair, as I understand, what Mr. Sorry, I forgot his name. You're safety is saying that the cafe is they're gonna close the supermarket, but they're not going to use the part of the license that allows them to operate as an off sale, and they're only going to use the variation to operate a cafe. But legally, they can still use the variation. They can still use the off license if they want to.
Right. And Amanda, question to you: in order to have the 12 seats outside, they would need an outdoor seating arrangement license, yeah?
Yes, the agent actually confirmed that they would have to apply for that at a later date.
Right. So we're looking at 16 people inside.
Yes.
Yeah. And just on the soundproofing, Mr. Azir, on the ceiling, do you have any idea of the kind of fabrication we're talking about there?
Yes. We're thinking of RW3 rock wool, 550 millimeters.
Okay. So I'm just going to open this up to the floor. Anyone, Dora, Debbie, Mr. Satnam Singh, Councillor Patrick, you can come in with questions, comments, observations, if you like. Amanda.
Chair, do you want to clarify the position that I know that obviously we will be considering the application on the evidence put before us, but Mr. Singh confirmed that the landlord will not be granting a variation. So
yeah, that would be useful.
I don't know if you want to clarify whether or not, therefore, they'll be able to do this.
Yeah, that's Hassan. Yeah. Hassan, are you there?
Can I answer this question?
Yeah.
It would be nice. I don't know if we could see Mr. Akbar or hear from him. He hears the licensee. It'd be nice to hear from him himself at some stage.
Would that be possible? Can you speak to your client, Mr. Azir, to see if he can speak to us? Debbie.
I just wanted to ask, you just said that you're going to put in 550 mil of rock wool in the ceiling. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
That was what was suggested by our acoustic engineer.
Okay, so could you tell me what distance will you have left? Because you'll obviously have to pin that in. You'll have to stud that in. So that's going to be over. That's 55 centimeters just of rock wool plus whatever's going to hold it in place. That's like, sorry?
Millimeters.
55 millimeters. So 5.5 centimeters.
Yes.
That's really not going to do very much for noise. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I have some experience of this. It doesn't sound like much to keep the noise levels down. And I think, as Mr. Singh said, that the ceilings are not high in that place already. So it doesn't sound really like this has been thought of very, very sensibly.
Okay, it looks like Hassan has left the meeting, Councillor Patrick. Amanda.
Given, Chair, as they haven't consulted with the local residents, how will they be able to improve the noise issues?
Yeah, did you hear that, Mr. Azir? As you haven't consulted with the residents, what do you plan to do to address noise?
We are working with an acoustic engineer to solve these problems. We will not turn our premises into a cafe without solving these issues, evidently. I'm actually trying to contact our acoustic engineer so that he can join the meeting and explain the situation better. But as I said, we will not turn our premises into a cafe without taking the necessary soundproofing.
Yeah. Is your client able to speak to us or not?
He's having
left the meeting.
He's having
No, I know he's left the
technical
meeting.
difficulties.
Okay,
Could
so-
I ask a question? Oh, sorry
Yep.
to interrupt.
Sure.
In the proposal, I saw that also there was some clause about drink will only be served with a proper meal. So you're not even going to have a bar in this establishment. You're planning just tables, and there'll be a kitchen. That's it, right? Is that what you're saying?
There will be a bar, but just for the staff. Alcohol will be served to customers seated.
So there will be a bar, or there won't, because in the proposal there's no mention of a bar. You said you will only serve alcohol, so there'll be no bar with seating or anything like this.
The customers will not be able to sit at the bar.
Okay.
There will be no vertical
Thank you.
drinking.
I think you're talking about, I'm just trying to find it in the papers. Debbie.
It's condition 2, isn't it? You helped me earlier find it.
Yeah, condition 2,
2 on one of the
24, yeah.
yeah.
And it says a table meal.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, we would like to extend that to a substantial meal, Mr. Azir, if we were minded to think of this in a positive light. How do you feel about that? I just need to ask.
I have a draft menu. I'm just gonna read that. Nachos with guacamole, grilled prawns with chili and garlic, bruschetta, grilled halloumi with pomegranate molasses, quinoa salad with avocado, beetroot, and fresh mint, prosciutto with mozzarella and tomato. This is the draft version. As I said, it will take some time for the premises to be converted from a supermarket to the cafe, so they don't have a final menu. This is just some of the items they're planning to put on their menu.
Okay, Councillor Patrick.
Have you got a time scale for this? You say that they're going to run the stock in the supermarket down and then turn it into a cafe. So what's the time scale for this then? Because if you're allowed to go ahead, which is being put into question from what Mr. Singh says, that the landlord of the premises says that isn't going to allow you to do this.
It will roughly take around a year. As to the landlord's consent, it's legal. I mean, it's not illegal to have a license without the consent of the landlord. It's not a planning application, so we can go ahead without the landlord's consent. I'm not the applicant.
He says you'll be in breach of your lease if you do that.
No, that's not right.
Just to state there, because the landlord solicitor has sent Akbar's solicitor a email stating that he clearly is in breach of lease, and Mr. Akbar or yourself have not addressed this very important valid point. So the landlord himself, he will not be giving consent for the conversion, and his solicitor has already stated if they do get a license, then they will be taking legal action to sue Mr. Akbar. So, Mr. Azir, I don't think that you have been communicating with your solicitors or your client solicitor in a professional manner, because I've spoken to the landlord this morning and he spoke to his solicitor this morning, clearly going through the lease, stating that it will be a clear breach of contract. And Mr. Akbar has also acknowledged that. He's acknowledged that if the landlord doesn't give consent because the landlord has a partner, then obviously he will not be able to proceed with this conversion. So with due respect, it seems like a waste of everyone's time under such stressful and conditions with the recent pandemic, etc. So we, as residents, we're confused with the integrity of yourself and also of Mr. Akbar in regards to what he claims that he's going to do without the consent of his own landlord. So yeah, I would put that into question. Thank you.
I haven't spoken to Mr. Ibakar's solicitor directly, but I was told by Mr. Ibakar that they didn't receive a letter from the landlord's solicitor. But I was also told that they are in talks. Mr. Ibakar and his lawyer are in talks with the landlord and his lawyer, trying to reach a they're trying to reach a conclusion, a compromising, and reaching an agreement.
Sorry, that's not true or accurate in any way, because I spoke to the landlord this morning and his solicitor, who he spoke to this morning, has confirmed that Mr. Akbar's solicitor has not responded to his first email stating that this is a breach of lease, and that was sent on the June the 1st. So this is 2 months down the line. So I think someone is not being totally honest with the information that they're providing.
Sorry to interrupt. Hello, because I checked with our legal officer Amanda. Is any of this relevant to the application? However, can we use it? Can any of this be used in making our decision?
Well, basically, you're only going to be considering the licensing objectives and the current application, the issues that have been raised. So I mean, it's they've raised it as a representation, but that's not necessarily going to influence your decision totally. It will be obviously a concern that they're going to be trying to operate with an alcohol license in an area which the local residents are not happy. So I think it's
I understand the local residents aren't happy, but I meant about the lease.
Oh no, the lease aspect, that's not relevant to your decision for the license.
Yes.
So I was giving Mr. Singh a chance to speak, to be fair, but obviously they need to draw that conversation to a conclusion, only because we can't do anything about that, unfortunately. We can only make a decision based on the application today. It is unfortunate that the applicant is not attempting to join the meeting. Can the agent try maybe to do that? And also,
because I know planning is a separate issue. And Mr. Aziz said this, they don't need planning application, but this is a change of use from a shop to a bar. So would they not need planning application?
They would need to sort that out separately to the licensing.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if whether or not the class of the premises, I don't know whether or not it changes or not. I know there's been a change in the class usages recently that it covers a wider range, so it doesn't necessarily require them to change that. But planning have not raised any concerns, and there isn't an issue there. I suppose the main issue is really about the noise issues. I know that the Environmental Protection have withdrawn their application. It's unfortunate they're not able to be here. I appreciate it because they've withdrawn now, but it appears that noise is still quite a big issue, and I don't know whether or not they're aware of how concerned the local residents are still about it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I've got Dora. Thank you, Dora.
Hi, yes, thank you. I just wanted to raise the point that as it stands, with all of the facts that we know, if this gets approved, it basically means that the premises will be allowed to serve alcohol to be taken away at any point by anyone during opening hours. And that's really the concern, that in a scenario where whether the cafe happens or not, whether it does happen or whether it succeeds or fails and goes back to a shop, the situation is that the shop would be able to just sell alcohol to people, and they will be allowed to open it and consume it inside, outside. And if they're consuming it outside, the shop really is not going to have any control over those people drinking outside and walking down the street and taking it outside our flat. I'm the one who's currently pregnant, and I've been increasingly distressed by the noise on the street. And as Debbie's pointed out, we've had to deal with people drinking on our front gate, regularly urinating on our front gate. And that's, in the situation of this license getting approved, it's definitely not going to help matters. In fact, it's going to worsen them, because it's right next door to us.
Okay, thank you for that, Dora. Amanda?
Yes, can we just ask Dora, who just spoke, to clarify, these issues that she's talking about, have they been the result of the actual shop premises at the moment, or are they the result of other premises in the area?
Yeah, I mean, it's an accumulation, but often we find that there are cyclists with the huge Bluetooth speakers pumping out music, and they're often stopping outside that shop, outside that premises, to make their purchases or whatever. And that's very loud. It's like amplified music. So.
Okay, thank you for that, Dora. Mr. Hassan, you're back on the call. I don't know if you would like to come in. We would like to hear from you if that's possible. I mean, obviously you don't have to, but it might be useful just to hear directly from yourself.
I know that he's having trouble with his connection. I don't know if he's able to turn on his microphone.
He's come in again. Mr. Hassan, you've joined again. Just going to give you an opportunity to come in and speak.
Yes, sir.
Great, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that, because I'm working right now.
Put it into your own words as to what you want to do here.
Yeah, I'm working right now. I'm dealing with customer at the same time. But sometimes I hear what all of you say. But the main problem is, but I'm of the one of them quite shop on the street. Because they've got close to the road, pizza shop, Bella Vita, and the corner shop, they go calling Broadway wine. Sorry, Broadway bar. They're banging music up to 3-4 o'clock every weekend, but no one complain about them. I don't understand how the people complain about me. Another situation that one of them, Jason, they says it got stabbing on inside the shop. But that's right, it's been stabbing like 4 or 5 years ago. But that stabbing, I cannot close my shop door because the young kids, the gangs, they're fighting on outside. One of them ran inside to my shop to save himself. Then a couple of them afterward, they came behind them, they're stabbing inside the shop. They broke all my wine, everything. They got police report about that.
Yep. Well, I thank you for that, Hassan. That's kind of good to know. But can you just describe exactly what you're trying to do with this application?
Be honest with you, I'm planning to for future, because in the pandemic that every business, they lose business. Everyone, they lose business at the moment. But my rent is 52 grand a year. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, man.
Can I have small bit of reserve? Extra slim filters.
Sorry about that.
and American Spirits Festival. Let's have a like, sir.
Whilst we're waiting for Mr. Akbar to come back, can I just say that I think it may have been one of the other, one of the local residents who wrote in a message in the
Yeah,
we're not allowed to actually do that in the meeting, so you'll have to actually verbally say it in the meeting because we're not allowed to put messages in the box. Sorry.
Sorry, I just said it in reply to.
Okay, you can after he's spoken, you can actually say it yourself.
Okay.
Because it's not then properly recorded. Thank you.
Okay, come back if he.
Yeah. So Hassan, you just
Yeah.
want to work out what you're trying to do here.
I'm talking about the future, but because everyone loses the business at the moment of the pandemic, because my rent is 52 grand a year at the moment. But I want to ask about my landlord and his colleagues just up there. How I'm gonna pay the rent if I lose my business and the same like this right now? If they're gonna reduce my rent, or they're gonna let me to do some alternative way to earn money to pay them rent?
Yep. So
Yeah,
Hassan,
I'll try
just speak because I mean, from my point of view, I know that businesses have really suffered during COVID, particularly the hospitality industry. But I'm surprised to hear you say that the shop has suffered because I believe supermarkets and shops were doing quite well during the pandemic.
Yeah, I do understand, but the one that the pandemic or lifting up all the restriction, but everyone business is gone down at the moment. But in future, I believe they're gonna be more quite every single business, not only for me, for everyone. But everyone have to find some alternative way to earn some money to save their family and their life, or the people who is working with them.
Yeah, but can you just describe the vision that you want? Is it a cafe? Is it a restaurant?
Well,
is it a bar? What's it going to be?
Be honest with you, I'm gonna continue to write under my business right now, the appliances and the grocery. If I lose the business, be honest with you, I'm told you the truth. I'm gonna do some coffee shop, that kind of thing, to trying to earn some money. But at the moment, I'm gonna continue right now on my own business. If I lose the
I'm
business,
slightly confused, Councillor.
Yeah.
Can you come in here, please?
So it's very confusing. So you've put in an application, you've got a licensing agent and everything, and you're talking about opening a cafe. 1 minute you're talking about a cafe, 1 minute you're talking about a wine bar, and now you're saying that you're going to carry on with your supermarket stroke off license. Your agent said you're not going to run both at the same time. I'm no business person, but I don't know. I would have thought a supermarket stroke off license would have given you more money than a restaurant, a tapas bar that seats 16 people.
Yeah.
Not that we can take any of that into account, but it does seem very strange. And could you tell us whether you have been in communication with your landlord about the lease? Because we've heard evidence from Mr. Singh that the landlord has said that he won't grant you a variation in your lease.
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
To have this cafe, and are you talking about you part of your conditions that we're proposing is that you only serve alcohol within your business with a substantial table meal. Do you understand that? You won't be able to just sell people a bottle of beer or a bottle of wine to eat without food. They have to have a meal as well. That's one of the conditions that we're proposing.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, I do. But in my landlord communication, but I spoke to face with my landlord when they sent the email to my solicitor. I spoke to face on them because he came to me like every couple of days. He came to the shop. We're talking. We are friends. Then I spoke to him face to face. I asked them. Then he says to me, "Apologize about the email, but everything is fine." Then afterward, we didn't continue all that.
Amanda.
Councillor Patrick was mentioning about the substantial table meal, and although Mr. Hassan said yes, he understood, the menu that was read out to us is not a substantial table meal menu. It's sort of like small. It's not the equivalent of
Yeah.
substantial meals, and I'm not sure if he understood that.
Mr. Akbar, do you understand what a substantial table meal is? It's not just a tapas, it's a meal.
Suba, do you want to come in quickly?
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to clarify. The applicant has already proposed condition with a substantial table meal within their report, so we don't have to propose it, which is number 2.
Well, it says table. It says table meal. It doesn't say substantial table meal. It's condition 2, page 24, and I think there's a bit of a difference there, frankly.
So we'll be amending the condition. That's
Yeah.
fine. And also, I would like to just refer condition 6, where it says no person shall be permitted to leave the premises with open containers containing the alcohol.
Yeah.
So there is some discussion about it where people will be taken out with open containers. So I would like to refer to that condition as well.
Yes, because I think Councillor Patrick has mentioned another condition that no off sales would take place if it does turn into a cafe, restaurant, whatever they decide to do.
But
Mr. Hassan,
they can still do off sales because they had their off sales license. They're both they provide a variation to do on sales to their off sales license. Normally it's the other way around. So they can sell alcohol till 2 in the morning as they are now to take away. They just won't be able to sell alcohol on the premises after 11 o'clock.
yeah, but I think you proposed the other one though, that they couldn't do the off sales.
But Amanda told us we can't do that.
Oh, okay.
Because that's their substantial license. Their variation is for alcohol on the premises.
Yeah.
Well, they will keep the license to take away and then add to be able to sell licensed food on the premises.
Okay, so I missed that from Amanda. Sorry about that, Amanda. Suba.
Sorry, sir. I just looked into the report again. There's a substantial table meal condition, which is 12.
Oh, yeah.
Intoxicating
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well spotted.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, if we're having substantial table meal, I know it's not. There's nothing about extractor fans and noise from extractor fans in this application. As soon as they're going to be cooking food, then there's going to be smells and noise from extractor fans. I don't see anything about that, and I don't know if it's relevant, but extractor fans tend to make a lot of noise.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Azir, do you want to come back on that one?
Perhaps he's going to bring all the food in.
May I just make a point on that in regards to I spoke to the landlord about that situation. In regards to the cooking of a meal in a kitchen, there's not actually anywhere on the exterior of the shop premises where they can be fitted an extractor fan, because the shop backs onto another apartment, and directly above is my apartment, so there will be no way of actually exiting an extractor fan out of the property unless it was onto the roadside, which I believe is against health and safety. So that's something that the landlord also mentioned in regards to how this conversion is not even feasibly possible, that including the soundproofing option because the ceiling is too low. So just on those 2 points, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Azir, do you want to address the extractor fan issue?
Yes, there will be no cooking taking place inside the premises. as to the substantial meal thing, even a Scotch egg is considered to be a substantial meal. All the items on the draft menu that I've told you are considered to be substantial meal.
Okay, well, that's one for the lawyers. Thank you. Look, I feel.
I think Dora was trying to say something. Dora.
Oh, sorry, Dora. Sorry, I forgot.
Oh yeah, this is what I just put in the. I put it in the chat because Hassan was mentioning how nobody's complaining about the other places, but that's not true. I have complained about the other restaurants that he had mentioned. And as I said before, we are seriously concerned about the noise.
Okay,
numerous noise reports have been made.
Fantastic.
I'd just like to mention one last point, if I may. I do
You'll
believe
have a chance. We're going to go for final clarification, so I'll give you. You'll be able to come in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, I think, folks, that we've kind of had a. I feel. I don't know if you all agree. I hope you do. Just nod briefly if you think we've had a thorough discussion, so that I know that you're relatively content. Right. So look, now we go to closing remarks. So I will invite Mr. Satnam Singh to start. So just give us some closing remarks, please.
Yeah, just on the point that I was going to mention was I do genuinely believe, obviously having lived around Broadermark 15 years, it's a dangerous precedent to be set if a license to a bar, wine bar, cafe is given next to a medical centre. I just don't think that sends out the right character of the area. I don't believe that children and people who are attending a medical centre, and it's a local medical centre, should be next to a bar where people are sitting outside, drinking to the late hours, etc. So just on that point. Second point would be in regards to the noise. It's clear for everyone who's around Broadway Market and who lives around there that there's an increasing amount of noise, and with noise comes antisocial behaviour and crime, theft, and which is all the residents have witnessed that. So just people who visit that won't be able to see that on a short-term basis. So that's also an issue that needs to be, at some point, I do believe that there needs to be a cap on license that are given on Broadway Market. Otherwise, it's just going to be a street full of bars and restaurants selling alcohol, inviting antisocial behaviour, particularly if London Fields is going to be banned, and then it literally becomes a street where people are just drinking on the street, and at times, with due respect, singing and dancing also. So I just believe it's a dangerous precedent to be set. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Debbie?
Well, listen, thank you very much for listening to us all and everything. I just feel that from what I've heard from Hassan, it's kind of a bit, everybody else is making more money than me, everyone else is allowed to do whatever, and I want the same. I don't see that that's a reason for giving a license. I think all these points, about carding people, making sure they're over 25, all this business just sounds like rubbish to me. I don't think any of that would happen. I think we know very well, all of us who live around there, or any police who are called around that, we all know that it's Broadway Market has enough issues with drinking, with antisocial behaviour, with all these problems, and more bars is going to make things worse. I just think you must know that as a council, and I'm really surprised that so many licenses are still being given and even considered. I think at this point, you'd be better off considering about repealing some of your licenses, not giving out more. And yes, to Hassan, we do complain about all of it in terms of the figures, of everything, just more and more. I understand Hackney Council have to make their money. I understand that these licenses bring in money to the shops, to the council, all round. And I'm not begrudging anyone from making a living, but greed is a separate thing. And I think you just got to know when to stop. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak. I'm just a bit concerned that the wrong messages are given about the council here. Unfortunately, the antisocial behaviour and the licences in general are different bits of law. We can't stop, the council cannot stop people applying for licences. We have to judge each licence application on the grounds that it comes in. We can't put a blanket ban on people applying for licensing. What we may be able to do, and we'll have to look at it, is turn this into a special policy area, which makes it more difficult for people to apply for license. And we can talk. We can talk to our colleagues, chair the licensing committee. But unfortunately, the council cannot, however much antisocial behaviour or disruption, stop people applying for licenses, however much we might want to. So,
I do understand that,
and the council doesn't make any. Well, the council doesn't make any money from licenses. You know, time with the money is spent enforcing licensing, enforcement of licensing, and all the antisocial behaviour that comes from licenses, and all the extra cleaning. You know, we know about the cleaning and the rubbish and the antisocial behaviour in Broadway Market, so we're very aware of it. But
I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to offend you at all.
No, you haven't offended us.
I just meant, you know, that obviously I understand that places need regenerating and all the rest of it.
No, you haven't offended. I just wanted to make the record clear that unfortunately, the law isn't joined up as we may want it to be sometimes. It's like people might complain that they've got 10 chip shops in a row, but there's nothing to law to stop you having 10 chip shops in a row or 10 bars in a row, unfortunately, at the moment.
Or 10 betting shops, for that matter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for explaining that. It's appreciated.
Right.
And Dora, would you like to come in with your final remarks?
Yeah, just that I think that from this meeting, I don't think I've been assured that whatever is going to happen is going to be done responsibly, and I still firmly, you know, and it just makes me even more concerned about what might happen if you know the license is granted and on sales is going to be permitted. It's just a big unknown and a big concern for me.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And then finally, Mr. Azir, if you'd like to just come in and do your final remarks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to answer some of the questions of the objectors. First of all, landlord consent is not a requirement. The applicant is in talks with the landlord, but it has nothing to do with the application, so it's irrelevant. Secondly, yes, there are beggars in the area, but they're not there because of our premises. Having beggars there actually makes the business, affects our business negatively. It has a negative impact on our business, and we don't want that either. I want to clarify the stabbing incident. Yes, there has been a stabbing incident outside our premises, and they actually barged into our premises, but they had no connection with the supermarket. They had no connection with the applicant whatsoever. They were just random people outside having a fight. They barged into the premises. They had no connection with the premises at all. We would like to volunteer 2 additional conditions. The first one is the premises shall not provide alcohol for the consumption on the premises while operating as a supermarket. If they put it onto the license, it's bounding. The second one is the off-sale hours should be restricted to those allowed for on sales. So this would make sure that we do not sell alcohol for the consumption of the premises while operating as a cafe. We believe we've put in everything. We've made robust.
Sorry, Mr. Azir, can I just stop you there 1 second? I just want to clarify that Amanda.
I haven't got down all of the points that he mentioned because he went through it very fast. So I was going to ask at the end if he could repeat it all or send us an email or something, because I don't have the wording.
Yeah, Mr. Azir, could you just slowly go through those 2 points you just made?
The premises shall not provide alcohol for the consumption on the premises while operating as a supermarket.
Okay, I've got that.
Yep. And next one, please.
Second condition is the off-sale hours should be restricted to those allowed for on sales while operating as a cafe.
Can you start again from after restricted?
Should be restricted to those allowed for on sales.
Sorry, could you say that one more time, please?
To those allowed for on sales. While operating.
I don't think what I've written down makes sense. Could you just repeat that condition again?
Yeah, I can say it, Amanda. The off-sale hours should be restricted to those allowed for on sales.
Ah, right. Oh, that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah.
The off-sale hours.
Restricted to those allowed for on sales whilst operating, Mr. Azir, operating as a cafe.
Should be restricted to allow to the hours of on sales, is it?
Yes.
Should be restricted to those allowed for on sales whilst operating as a cafe. I note that you're using this word cafe. I mean, I'm still not convinced that that's what it is, frankly. But anyway, if that's what you say, it's
sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, whatever they're calling it. Can I just double check when you say not operating? Does this mean that because the off license will be shut, or are we talking about them? You stop selling food and shutting the cafe and then operating the same night as an off license? Are you talking about shutting the off license business just to operate as a cafe, or are you still talking about running both in parallel and just shutting? So when you shut the cafe at 11 o'clock, then you're not a cafe anymore, and then you're an off license.
No, we will not operate as a supermarket and as a cafe at the same time. The supermarket business will be closed, and we will operate as a cafe and not as a off license.
Okay, just wanted to clarify what we were talking about. So you're not going to do two at the same time. That's okay.
Yes.
So at some stage in the future, you will shut the supermarket and only be a cafe.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for those closing remarks. I'd like to move on to step 8 now, which is final clarification. Anybody got any points of clarification they'd like to raise at all?
Can I add 2 more things?
Yep.
As to the planning, they have permission to turn it into a cafe, as there will be no cooking taking place at the premises. We believe we've made robust arrangements to prevent a problem in drinking or anything, but there always will be people who will not be pleased with our application, with our business. They also even criticize our notice, which was totally legal. It was A4 size, but they're saying we put it quietly put it up. We circulated, we published a notice in the newspaper. We've taken every reasonable step for this application, and we will take reasonable steps while converting our business from off license to a cafe. Therefore, we ask you to consider everything and grant this application. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a point of clarification, please. Just on the dispersal policy that you submitted. In there, you mentioned strong management presence front of house at all times. Will that be a designated SIA security person?
No, we don't think an SIA supervisor or supervisor is required at this stage.
Okay. Is that something that you would consider?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, I think if there aren't any further points of clarification, I'll just give a second for people to chip in if you need to.
I just wanted to make one final point.
Yeah.
Just in regards to what the geography of the property is. The premises is directly below my 2 bedrooms. One of the bedrooms is my 7-year-old, who can pretty much hear everything that happens in there. So I am very much questioning the soundproofing that they are looking to take, because obviously we only received the report 3 hours before this meeting, and it does say something about rock wool, which is very thin, which is 55mm. I spent about £15,000 soundproofing my property from the outside windows with soundproofing glass, but there's very little that you can do from the ceiling of the property to my floor, because there's a very small cavity there, which lots of pipe work for the entire building runs through. So my doubt and major concern of this application on a personal level is the soundproofing directly onto my bedrooms from this shop. Yeah, so just as I want to mention that as a final consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councillor Patrick, any further points of clarification for you?
Chair.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I hope that you feel that you've had a good hearing, and you've been allowed to say everything that you wanted to say. If I could ask you all to leave now, and then we will, as members of the council, basically deliberate and consider this application. You should hear tomorrow morning, I believe, by phone, and then within 5 working days by written, by letter or email. So thank you very much, everyone. If I could now ask you to leave.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great evening. Thank you.